Hi everybody, I am doing something different. I need to probably get that light back there covered, but that's not what we're focusing on. Let's actually get maybe a tilt. That might help a little. Anyway, we've got a box here, and inside this box I've got some minis. And in case you're wondering what I'm talking about, I've grabbed one of my guys here. He's actually upside down, that's unfortunate. This is one of the minis that I painted for a merchant character a while ago now. And that's what I'm going to be doing today, is painting minis. So if you want to hang out with me while I paint, I would love to have you. And we are just going to get into that and what that looks like and what mini painting is. Now that I'm screwing my camera up. Come on now. The fun of the live stream. I have some really fancy dice trays in here that I made myself. These are just repurposed wooden paint things. I'm trying to get them all. I can do it just here. They're repurposed wooden paint thingamabobs from Hobby Lobby. And they work really well for catching dice for various different games. And there we go. Okay. I have some other ones too. These have felt linings, and they're a little bit older. They're a bit beat up. Some dice. Oh. And what we are painting today, Germans. So this guy, I think, is all done. Just got a message on my thing here. Well, that's loading. So he's done. This guy needs some painting on him. Though, we're going to be looking at his gun. Come on, focus now. You know, I need to do this real quick or I'm going to lose my mind. Bear with me. Whoop. Okay. Now, they should all be the right orientation. Yeah, that autofocus is going to kill us, I think, here. Can't make out what it wants to do with it. I'll toy with that later. I've got a couple of these guys in here that absolutely need to get some painting done on them. And some touch-ups. And so that's what we're going to do. So we're going to get them out of the box. We're going to get some paint on them. And we're just going to hang out and talk. So one of the things that we are doing is this streaming, which is called Bible Life Builders, if you're stumbling across it. And you're wondering, why are we painting? Well, one of the really cool things about life is it includes all of that stuff. Whether it's the big things like God, your faith, your struggles, your highs, your lows of life, like marriage, kids, loss, death, things like that. Or littler things that are so important to you. Like, one of my hobbies is painting. One of the things I do to calm down at the end of the day is I can sit back and I can just paint for a while. And that's what we're going to do this evening. I'm just going to paint and hang out. If you want to drop a chat to let me know that you're here, I would love to interact with you and answer a question if you've got it. Or maybe you let me know what one of your hobbies is. And we can just hang out and enjoy each other's company and build life together. Let me get this coordinated. I'm literally just pulling these guys out of a random box that I had for travel. Yeah, but if you guys want to drop one of your hobbies, I would love to know what you've got. While you're doing that, I'm going to dig around in here because I think I found it. I had broken off one of the tops of one of the guns. So that's going to be the first challenge this evening, is getting this thing fixed. Okay. So you see that little piece right? Oh, I almost lost it. Right there. That is the gun that we're going to try to re-glue very off the top here of this machine gunner. So what I need is, obviously, glue. Let me see if I can find some glue. I think I got some. Mr. Cements, as I beat him into the other guy. Isaac, I know you're a huge fan of rock hunting, and if you guys don't know, Isaac is the other half, if you will, of Bible Life Builders, and I'm excited to see maybe one day him taking us on a journey rock hunting and what that involves, because I have no idea exactly what that is or what that looks like, but would love to experience that with you sometime. Let's get this fixed though. That's our objective now. It definitely has an orientation to it. So we're going to try to get that repaired on there. So what we'll do is we'll get our glue out, touch just a little bit on the tip there, and work quickly. And get that refastened on there. Now you're going to dig it on Friday. Is that a family tradition that you do every year, or is it just something you're doing this year? Get some more glue on that. We're going to set him to the side for a while. I've also got a bunch of these guys who have this big yellow thing. That's called a Panzerfaust. It was basically the Germans' version of a bazooka. It was a single shot gun, and it would shoot a just big old like projectile rocket at the enemy and really mess up some tanks. And it was this weird yellow color. At least that's what it comes out as in my army. So we've got some touch up on those. There's some chips on that because they were right around in a box. Alright. I'm going to get a drink real quick here. It's new. My mom, stepdad, sister, and her family, and my son will all be going. That is awesome. So, like, digging for crystals. I'm going to actually tune into this, or try to, if you make some of it live or something of that sort. Do you like just dig in the ground for rocks, or is there like a place that you go to dig for crystals? Like, how does that work? Because I am genuinely fascinated by that. While that is going on, I'm gonna get some of my paints in the screen here. In case you're wondering what this is, so these are model color paints, and they are Vallejo. At least that's how I say it. I've heard like Vallejo as well, or Vallejo. It's Vallejo is kind of the go-to name that I hear around, and they are these little bottles that are made for mini painting. And what's really cool about these mini paints is that they are made with really fine pigments, and what that means for us as crafting people or mini painters is we can paint on these models with very fine detail, and that fine detail is preserved, and you don't get these big clumps covering over all of your very fine and precise detail. So that's why we use these special model color paints. So Vallejo is a brand that I use. It's my primary brand of paints and whatnots. But what I'm going to be playing with the most, I think, here is Is it German yellow? Get some mixed up and we'll see. You know what I need to do? I need to grab a cover for my paint thing. Here's my brushes, and here's my paint tray, which is kind of gross, and I apologize. But what it needs is a cover of like white paper, and that holds the paint, and this is just a damp thing underneath it. It actually needs a little bit more water. Get some more water on it. That's my cleaning brushes water. Okay. Isaac, there are mines all over Arkansas. Very different experience. Several digging, especially if the rains. Yeah, I bet the rains kind of wash things out and makes new things come up. Oh, I did not know that. That sounds super interesting. That's one of the things that I don't want to necessarily expand Bible Life Builders into just a like experience channel, but I do think there is a great value in seeing these hobbies that people do, and a lot of the hobbies are really good. I don't want to say distractions per se, but they're good to show us that yes, as Christians we can have fun, but we also can enjoy certain things of life, like using Noah the Musical from the Sight and Sound Theater down in Branson as your paint mug cleaner. Oh yeah, that sounds super fun. Breaking into rock, like actually mining the stone. That sounds so cool. Okay, well, I'm going to run off for just a second and grab a plate. I'm going to let you stare at my merchant here while I go, so there's something interesting on the screen, and I will be right back in about 5 seconds. Okay. Oh, I gotta reopen that door, or the cats are gonna freak out on me. Alright. There you go, boo-boo. So I have talked for quite a while and haven't put a single paint on a brush yet, and it's been... How long have I been live here? 13 minutes and haven't done any painting. Let's change that, shall we? We need... Oh, I was seeing if it was a German yellow. I think it is. So we'll start there and just go around. So I'm going to put some paint on the palette here for us. We'll go right in the middle. And that looks disgusting. I have not mixed this up well enough yet. That's the only bad thing about these is you really gotta mix them, and there's no way of doing it that saves any kind of decency or makes you look any type of respectable. You just gotta pick it up and fling it around. Oh! Well, that's way too much paint. Alright. Let's get some of this back in our bottle here, because I hate to waste this much paint on something that I just gonna be painting the very smallest amounts of. There's a bubble there too. That's probably what caused the blobsplosion. That is a great question. What armies do I have? I have 3 armies. So these are for a game called Bolt Action. And the point of Bolt Action is you are playing kind of the World War II different scenarios or kind of leading up into maybe a little bit after stuff that's going on. And with those, you have, I need to move my water. You've got basically all the major factions of World War II. And so I have the Germans. That's who I'm painting today. I have an Italian army, and my wife / me has an American army. Why do I say my wife / me? We kind of share that army in the sense that I paint it, but it's ultimately hers. And someday, I need to get this under here so you can see what I'm doing, I will get that army up here and show everybody what really cool things that we did for her so that she can play it with a little less of a hassle for entry. Because she has a hard time knowing what guns do what. And so to make it easier for her, man, I'm just getting all over the place with my focus here, to pick up and play, we took the different types of weapons. I need to make sure I'm under the camera, Vinny. There we go. We took the different types of weapons and color-coded them. So if she has a bazooka guy here, it has a sparkly base. I believe machine gunners or submachine gunners have a pink base. Riflemen have a green base. Her BARs, which is an American thing, have a blue base. I'll have to get that army out and show, because it does some really cool things, to, like I said, to make it a little bit easier for her to just pick up and play. And whenever I can get my wife to agree to play with me, she is always the Americans, and I always play as the Germans. And that's one of the fun things, is you don't have to have like the Germans. Like, you can play two American armies against each other if you're really into it and don't care about historical accuracy and you just want to play the game. Or you can do, come on, get that focus on there. Focusing on the background more than anything. Here, let's get that to the side. So yeah, there we go on that. If it wants to focus, there we go. So I need to come back in and paint some of that hand there, back up, and that looks pretty good. All right, I have paper towels down here. That's my next thing that I forgot to grab. I normally do my painting upstairs, and so I'm very professional this evening. If you're joining me and want to leave a chat, please do, while I hunt down my paper towels. But I swore I had some down here. Alright. I've got some old dusty towels. We'll use that instead. So with your paper towel, what you'll do is you'll take your brush after you wash it off and you dry it off, and you want your brushes to be a little wet but not like dripping wet. And so I always get just a little wet, and I can't really show wetness, but you can feel it should be leaving light little lines of water on you. In case you're wondering, this is the number 2 round from the Master Touch series at Hobby Lobby. Because I know you're thinking, man, what is he painting with? I need to get those. I also have number 4 round, number 0 round, and another number 2 round that is just absolutely trashed because I've used it for about 6 years now, I think. Alright, let's look at doing some more repair work. So this guy, his poor gun is super bent. I am going to try to get that camera to stop autofocusing. Let me do that, and hopefully that doesn't break absolutely everything. It doesn't look like it is. So we're going to open this main camera. and see if I can't get this guy to stop autofocusing. Well, it says the autofocus is off. Oh, there we go. Turn that autofocus off, and I want to focus right about here. That looks pretty good, don't you guys think? Okay. That looks real good. So you can see there, his gun tip barrel is bent very slightly. So I'm going to come in here and try to be very gentle and bend that back straight. Okay, sir. You look a lot better now. All right. Let's get some different colors here. Let's do the very fun activity of painting the guns. So for the guns, I'm going to be using oily steel because it is oily steel. The other color that I will be using, and this one's going to be a stretch. Are you ready? Gunmetal Gray. These are both Vallejo colors, and the reason I have the two is they do something slightly different. And I don't know if I can show it in my palette here, but I'll try. So that is going to be our Gunmetal Gray, and it is a very kind of metallic, darker color. You can see the little specks of mica powder in it. And then our oily steel. Oh, this one's being a little tighter on me. Our oily steel is much darker. So we got two different metal colors here. And what I like to do is with the Germans, and to an extent my Americans as well, you've got this guy here who has a machine gun, submachine gun, an MP40 I believe is what it's called. And those things were really dark typically. They were like a black almost. And so that's how I go with oily steel. And you'll see that. Let me get some color on him. So with your metallics, generally you're going to want to use a rougher brush. And what that allows us to do when we use a bit of a rougher brush, I'm not worried about ruining this brush. So that really helps. I can actually see a little bit better through my camera than I can actually just looking at it. So anyway, I'm going to get this really covered with my oily steel. I'm working on keeping everything in frame. I apologize. Get some more paint here. Keep my color light. And get that all over him. Get some color back on them there. Get all of this nice and beautifully painted up. And then you can really see kind of the color change there. Let me get some, hopefully more light kind of in the system. I'm losing a lot of my detail here, and I apologize for that. These guys tend to kind of be dark. I'll come back in here and I'll paint his handle a different color. It is not going to be black, or this oily steel rather. And there we go. So that's all covered. Get back here a little bit. And you can kind of kind of be a little generous on your painting with these because the colors will run down. I'm also going to grab my BAR, or I'm sorry, my machine gunner. It's not a BAR. And I'm also going to give him a light, just brushing with this oily steel. Make sure I'm in frame so you can see what I'm doing. And this is a very watered down mixture. You're painting it on there. You're not going too crazy. Again, this really isn't meant to be a tutorial, but I'm just trying to fill the airspace while I go. Make sure he stays in frame for us. And almost done with him. Just going to get some last few little bits covered here. We'll have to come back in there because you can see where I overpainted a little bit and it's got a pink speck there that I need to cover. I'm going to let this all sit and dry so I can come in with a second coat of this. Especially with the metallics, you want to go thin and light because you can always go with another coat. You can't take paint off as easily. While that is happening, I'm going to pop open a drink. All right, let's keep going. So I'm washing out my brush. With metallics, you really want to get the paint out of them. They just wreck a brush. That's what's happened to this poor guy. You can see he's got a bit of a hook there where he's hooked over. He's got a bit that sticks out like to the side. He's got some paint built up kind of in where I've over saturated them and haven't gotten cleaned out appropriately. And unfortunately, this good old brush is towards the end of its life. You can kind of see that he's got some areas that are just more than a little done. But you can get them wet, get them strained out there, and you can see that it still, for the most part, has a decent point. And you can paint around that hook and still get some really good painting done. With that in mind, let's keep going. We're going to just get to our gunmetal here. And we're going to start getting some paint on our rifles. Our rifle proppers. Whoop, get in the frame, sir. If you remember, this is our gentleman who had the bent rifle. We got him all straightened out. Now we're getting some paint on him. Ooh, he's got a lot of overpaint on the back of this hand here. That backside's going to need a lot of coats to get him nice and covered. That might be a 3-coater on the back there. Get him underneath here again. Right there on top. Get down here and get his clip all painted. Get in there on his handgun. We're going to try to get behind here a little bit and catch just the bottom of that magazine clip. It's called a clip. It's not a magazine on these guns. But they mean the same thing in general conversation. Get a little bit more paint on there. I'm going to go a little heavier than I normally do just to get those areas covered. And that is all she wrote. We're not going to touch the back. We're not going to touch the back of this guy right here, the butt, because that is made out of wood. So we don't want to paint that with the metallics and then try to cover it later on. It's just going to make it look weird. I may come back in and try to bend his barrel because it's a little bit droopy. But for now, we're just going to leave it. And we're going to keep going. All right, we've got 5 guys' guns painted. This gentleman here does not have a gun. He has a grenade and a clip, or magazine, or a belt, whatever you want to call it. I think these are actually called belts, of machine gun ammo around his neck. And on his back, he's got a couple of things. He's got a case where he was holding ammo, it looks like. And this was a spare barrel for the machine gun. They used to take the barrels off the machine guns when they got too hot to keep them from overheating so they could keep firing. Here's a guy that we need to paint. He's got his gun strapped over his shoulder. And so he needs that painted. So let's do that for him. We'll get some paint. We'll get in the frame here. And we're just going to get paint all over this gentleman. A little bit there. So this is a bit of a different gun than our other one. This is a Kar 95. That was the German rifle for World War II. And what's different about this is this part right here is all wood connected to the strap. And this part, the butt of the gun, is obviously wood. There's a little bolt right there that is metal. But the rest of that's all going to be wood. So we're really just kind of painting the tip here and the top parts. And we're going to come back in with our mahogany and paint those bits to give a nice, good, rich, deep color. Yeah, but this gentleman, he is mostly done. Got another guy here. He's got a lot of touch-up I need to do. Look at that shoulder I overpainted on. Oof. So we're just going to paint the tip of his gun. I just put my finger in the paint. Alright. And the top part here, right here, we can get that painted for us. A little bit on the back. And that bolt. Okay. So that gentleman is done. Highlighting that, I'm going to have to paint over that a couple times probably. We'll just keep rolling for now. Alright, here's another one of these guns. So we're going to paint the tip there and that first little wrinkling. Over, paint the back wrinklings. A few days ago, I had my mother join me, and she and I painted a bunch of houses for this game that I play. They could be used for other various things. She painted up some ruins. I painted up a really cool, in my opinion, kind of country-style home, and it got me inspired. Like, I want to paint more, just get my armies painted up, and so I can play some. And I think on New Year's, our plan is to get a bunch of the older gentlemen from the church together, and I'm going to teach them to play this game. We'll see how that goes. A couple of them seem interested. Majority of them are like, I don't know about this. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm excited. Let's keep going. This guy, I don't think I've showed one of these yet. I'm not talking about his weapon here. I want to look at his coat. So typically, these coats were all types of camo colors. They had this really cool pattern to them. And this guy, get him back in the frame here, he has a gray coat. And one of the reasons I did that is I wanted my German army to be easy to paint. I didn't want to paint camo, so that's a cheap shot there. But also, we do have records that we have found of these guys with gray coats. Like, these gray coats they used were left over. They didn't get washed or camoed or whatever, and they just were gray. So I'm using some liberty here, and my German army has a big swath of guys who are in gray coats. So I think that's going to be really, really cool for kind of on the table as they're moving across. You're going to see these big swaths of gray coats guys mixed in with the greens and stuff. And it makes them look pretty interesting and breaks up just the monotony of all being green and gives us a little bit of variance within the army, but still keeping it on theme of my marching gray coats. And that top bolt there, sorry, is all gray. Alright. Now we got this gentleman with the gun over his shoulder. Very similar thing. We're going to paint the tip that we know is a metallic. Get all of that painted. And then we're going to come down, paint the bolt and the top part of that. And I guess I'm going to paint his elbow as well. Alright, one last guy to paint. He's got his gun pointed straight up. These are my least favorite model because these gun barrels always break because they get caught on everything. Alright, so that's painted. Now we're going to circle back around. See what we've hit and see what we haven't. Wash out our brush. Get a drink. I'm alternating between pop and water so I don't get too sugariated. Okay. I'm going to grab some German gray. And this color is interesting for me anyway, because it's a super dark gray. And with these super dark grays, they almost look black. And that's the color I chose for all of my hats. One of the things you look at whenever you're painting an army like this is what they call the 3 feet rule. So see how black that is? I'll move it towards the camera for you. So you have the gunmetal gray there and then just the black next to it. Grab a couple of these guys. You want them to look good about 3 feet away from you. That's going to be about 3 feet away from you on the game table at that size, maybe a little bit bigger. And that looks fine, right? They don't have to be super duper detailed. You're not going to be winning any awards just to get them on the table. And so whatever you need to do to get them on to that level to where you can play with them, do it. I think that's more important than having them look absolutely perfect. That's something I've had to tell myself of, Vinny, they don't need to be perfect. You just need to get them painted. It's like this guy. So what am I doing with the black? If you look at his helmet, he's got some chips and dinks and doinks on him. And I want to make sure I get all of that kind of cleaned off and looked at. So what I'm doing now is I'm just going through actually and hitting some of these with some water. So like this gentleman here, he's got a big chunk missing out of his helmet, paint-wise. Get on there. See that there? That kind of that light spot? That is a paint chip. Here's another one with a paint chip missing. So I'm going to get all the dust from around that area off. This guy's not wearing a helmet. We need to probably paint his hair gold or blonde, because these are very stereotypical Germans. He's holding his helmet. You can see it's absolutely covered in dust, so we're going to wash it off too. I did wash off the guns before we started. You do not want to paint over dust. That is a good way of ruining your paint job. So I am just washing off these helmets before I come back and try to paint them. You can see just the dust on his back too. Get that all nice and cleaned off. I'm going to grab a bit of a bigger brush for this, because all I'm doing is really dusting at this point. If you're joining and you're hanging out, awesome. Do you have a hobby that you really enjoy? That's kind of what we're doing. We're just painting, talking. We can talk about God. We can talk about your hobbies. We can talk about maybe an interesting thing you had during your day. I would love for that conversation to be had if you're willing to have it. Again, trying to keep these in frame while I'm doing this, but I'm just knocking off some of that dust so that I can come back and paint these helmets. Okay. Let's look at some of these first guys that I knocked the paint off of. So we have a shiner here on this helmet. We're just going to take some of this paint and blop it on. And it's gone. So that's one of the really cool things about these paints is they're so precise and they're color matching and all that stuff that it is gone. It's still wet, obviously, but when that dries, you're not going to be able to see that that was painted over. All right, here's another gentleman with a paint damage, or sorry, not paint damage, but just damage. So again, we're just going to paint over that. Give him a good look around, get some other parts of his helmet. Now, some of these helmets were this real dark gray color. A lot weren't. Some of the more distinctive helmets were... Oh, I bashed it into my camera stand. I'll pull that up a little bit. I was losing painting room. It was slowly falling down. He looks fine. Just going to get some paint on the front side there. I'm just wet my brush every once in a while. Make sure my paints stay nice and wetted, so that when I put them on, they go on nice and thin. Now, I don't want to stay here and pretend to be the best painter in the world. I'm not. I'm mediocre at best. Better than all my friends, but not a world-class painter by any mark. But I do enjoy painting. It is calming for me. And I'm kind of killing two birds with one stone with y'all this evening. I'm doing my live stream and painting up some minis that I need to get painted. One thing we might try to start to do, if I find this to be engaging and you guys are enjoying it, we can very much so have a planned time to do this paint and chill. So we would love to be able to do that and just hang out and talk about stuff and answer questions. I'm a big question answer guy, and I love to be able to do that. But I also just enjoy talking to other Christians, hearing their stories, and connecting over that stuff. There's a lot in this world that brings us down and tears us apart. And so we can do a lot to build ourselves together and have good community with each other. I'm looking for a paint color, and it broke my train of thought. I don't know where it's at. So let's look. I need to grab my German field gray, because I have gentlemen like this here who has paint all over his elbow. And that's not going to fly, so we need to paint it. But I cannot, for the life of me, find my German field gray. My paints, in case you're wondering, if I can do this without dropping them everywhere, sit in these really beautiful paint trays. And what's so cool about them is you can see all the colors really quick and easy. But there's so many of them that I lose my paints from time to time, it seems. So we're going to put that guy down and look again here. Oh, here's my German field gray. Got it. Alright, I'm going to wash it off a little bit here before I show it to you. Okay, German field gray, World War II. That's what all the uniforms are painted. So we're just going to grab some of this now, and we're going to paint. It's catching me whipping this around, and it doesn't like it on my audio file. That should be noise gated, so it's not getting too loud for you all. But for me, it's definitely popping it up in and around and stuff. So I put some of that on there now, and you can see that color is very, very dark, and it's green. It's not. The camera doesn't quite pick up how green that actually is. That's something to consider too, that some of my colors aren't going to be the most clear here because they are being picked up on a camera. But for the most part, the colors are what they seem and how they track. Oh, one of the things I think I want to do here . Bear with me for just a moment. Is hobby spelled with a Y or an E? Ah, spelled with a Y. Alright. Let's select a color. We'll go white. And that's already popped over there. Okay, we're going to move our logo down. No, actually we'll put that down here. We'll keep our logo up there. Boom. What is your favorite hobby? So if you're joining me now, I want to go ahead and drop that in the like. I would love to talk about it. Friend Isaac was in here earlier, and he talked about how his favorite hobby is rock collecting or crystal hunting, which is one of those things where don't know much about it, and Isaac is actually the second half of this channel, and he's going to show us that someday, I hope, so that we can all experience and learn about rock hunting. I actually believe I have a rock from Isaac. It was a gift for being in his wedding, and it is sitting, you can't see it, but it's actually in that bookshelf behind me. It's down there below, and it's this little geode thing. It's really cool. That's actually a locked bookcase, or I would get it out and show you guys. But I might get that out for next stream and show that off to everybody. Okay, I need now green. I was painting green. Okay, here we go. So see his little elbow there? It's collected some paint. So I'm just going to go in very lightly because I don't want to lose the detail of the creases. And we're just going to put some paint on that. While I do that, I'm going to look around and see any areas like his sleeve here that caught some overpaint. And I'm going to get some very smallest amount of paint on my brush so that I can get some paint on him. I'm not worried about the strap of his gun quite yet. My cat is underneath me yelling at me for some reason. So he's done. So I'm going to set him to the back and grab another guy. And we're just looking over all of his stuff. Seems like there's a little chip there. There's some overpaints on his straps here, so we're just going to clean that up on both sides. Make sure I'm straight and narrow here. And that's looking pretty good. He's got some overpaint there on his coat collar. Not super worried about the finest detail on the inside, because that'll be covered. And get that little bit of his sleeve there. Oh, he's got another little spot right there. Get a little bit more paint. So that's going to be our recurring theme here, is just the slightest little bits of touch up on these last few little guys. So he's done. 2 of 12. Let's keep rolling. Again, on this gentleman, the same thing. Some more overpaint on his collars. Probably shouldn't sing into the camera. It's not what you all are stopping in for. Get some more paint on that back leg. It's looking a little light. Alright, but overall, he's looking pretty decent. Maybe a little bit on that coat pocket there. Alright. And so with these details, I'm looking at really fine things, and I don't know if all of them are coming across the best here on the camera. Like that little overpaint there is pretty obvious on his elbow, so we're going to come in and try to make that less of a thing. There we go. Fortunately, you can kind of get lost in those details, and we'll put what they call a wash on this gentleman later. And what that will do is it's going to flow into some of these creases and sections. So like there's a part there between the belt and his jacket. And you can definitely see where there's not paint there. But I'm not super worried because I know the wash is going to flow into that and make it dark. And that's going to hide a lot of my mistakes. There's kind of a joke in this trade where these washes, they're called talent in a bottle, because that's what you do. You can make yourself look much better than you are by putting a wash on your minis. So he actually has some gaiters or waders we need to paint, but I believe for the most part he also is done. He's got a little speck in there on his neck, but it's really not worth chasing in my opinion. And that's another part of this. Eventually you'll learn what's worth your time to chase and what you've just got to say, you know what? Not a big deal. This guy did not get cleaned off, so that's what I'm doing right now with this. A lot of these guys are covered in dust, and I apologize for that. That's very unprofessional of me to show up with dusty minis to a live stream, but the reason for that is our basement had some work done in it, and these guys were out waiting to be cleaned up and painted, and they got covered in dust. So we're going to put him to the side to dry and grab another gentleman. Oh, he's got a lot there on his collar. You see that? We need to get that painted and cleaned up. So get a little bit of water on our brush, a little bit of paint on our brush there in the background, and let's paint that up and clean that up. Just very gently get in there. All right. Again, you don't want a ton of paint on your brushes. When you're doing this, you just want the slightest amount so you can get a thin coat over the top of, I hazard to call them mistakes, because they're not mistakes in the same term of like oh, that's a massive screw up and you'll have to start over. They're just little overpaints, and that's okay. It is okay to overpaint because you can always cut it back. Alright, and so that guy's done. Let's set him to the side. Pull another one out. This guy's got the gray waiter. And he actually looks pretty good. I don't see anything on him. Maybe a touch in that elbow there. Go both sides just in case. And we'll set him back. I like this model a lot. He's got a little book that he's... Oh, you see? Wham! That he is currently using and reading out of. And it looks like he might have a little cigar in the corner of his mouth, which is what that brown thing is I was trying to paint. So that's interesting. He's got a little mess up on his collar. We'll paint that. He's got a real dusty back. We're going to wash that off. He's got a mess up there on his collar. Everything else looks pretty good on this gentleman as far as what we're worried about for painting. He has what looks like maybe a little bit of paint. I'm sorry, hair running out behind his hat there that we'll need to come back and paint. Alright, this gentleman, he's also pretty dusty. We'll get some water on him to clean some of that dust off. Oh, he's got a big chip there on his shoe. Do you see it? Paint chip off. One of the things that I do when I paint these guys is I try to really paint the background first, or the furthest in item. So usually that's the face, then their uniform, then I'll go in for like maybe their strap, then I'll do their webbing or their leather straps and belt, then I do their boots, then I do the little parts around their boot straps, then I do the weapons last. That's just kind of my flow on those things, and it helps, I think. But yeah, we're going to set him aside to dry off a little bit and grab another one. Alright, again, we're looking for overpaints on the uniform itself to quickly touch up and fix. He's looking pretty good. Maybe a little bit on that back collar there. You see kind of where it's overpainted just a hair or two. So we're going to give that some blobbing on the paint and set him aside. Grab another one here. And he also has some paint going everywhere, it seems. He just has a little bit of blop there. I think, for the most part, he's looking pretty good. Maybe a little bit under his belt here. There we go. I don't know if you can see that, but it's just the finest amount of overpaint. Oh. You know that guy I was talking about having the problem with his gun? I just broke the tip of his gun off. So we're going to fix that. That's annoying. This guy also has some paint there on the middle of his chest. Do you see it? So we're going to touch that up real quick as well, and then we're going to fix that gun I just broke. Get that fixed up there. He's got his collar that's got some skin tone on it. Get that painted up. We'll check his back. He's got a lot of overpainting on his back. This guy's had a rough day, man. Look at all that. Who painted this guy? It was me. I painted this guy. We're going to get that painted up again, though, here. Whoop, whoop. And the overpaint on the top. And I might actually come back in and paint this guy's webbing some more. He's not looking the best. Alright. Let's get that gun fixed. Where's my glue? There's my glue. So we're going to take the lightest bit of paint, or glue, and just on the edge of his gun there. Just boop, boop, boop. And the way that this works is it melts a bit of the plastic. So that then you can chemically weld these guys back together. I know this doesn't make for very good viewing. You're literally watching paint dry. But, it didn't go. We'll try again. It is just one of those things where you've got to really get in there and up close and personal. Okay. Try to do that. I'm actually going to throw some glue on it and knock it all off. Am I actually picking up glue here? Come on. There we go. We're just going to have to load it up. And 1, 2, 3. Okay. Oof. Sometimes you just have to call your give up on it and just move on. But we'll see. It's back on there for now. Super worried about him though. that is not a very stable connection. We're just gonna put him to the side. Alright, let's grab one of these guys that we cleaned off and get some paint on him, on their issues, if we can find him again. He's looking good. It was the webbing in the back here. We got a bit of overpaint on. If you're joining me and would like to drop a quick comment on what your favorite hobby is, I'd love to talk about it. Alright, that's looking pretty good there. So we can set him aside and keep rolling. This guy's kind of in a similar issue, just having a few little spots that need some fixing. But he's looking pretty good as well. Last guy, so get that elbow that was nasty. His webbing looks pretty good. That boot needs some fixing. I think he's got waders on I need to paint. But he's overall looking pretty good. I'll get some extra paint on that elbow. Sometimes I like to hit the bits that stick out, just with a little bit of extra paint. That way, when they're in their boxes or they happen to rub up against other minis and they get a little bit of damage to them, they're not going to completely fall apart. That really picked up the noise of me washing the brush out. Okay, well, I have been live for over an hour now, and I think I'm going to cut it there. Again, we are just painting here in this episode. I'm going to show off this guy because he's got a lot of fine detail. I put quite a few hours into this gentleman, just painting him up. And you can see, I'm not the best painter in the world, I'll admit to you guys, but I really enjoy doing this. And what it does is a couple of things. It calms me down. It allows my brain to kind of shut off for a few minutes. And it allows me to work on something that I find rewarding. And when it comes to your life, one of the important things that we don't often talk about is that mental health aspect. And it is good, it's okay, and I would even say it's encouraged for us to take a moment to be okay. When it comes to life, it is okay for us to take a moment to say, I'm not okay. I need to calm down. I need to be okay. And that's what painting does for me. Maybe you have a hobby. I know some people who like to just walk, and that's their hobby, that's their calming thing. Or maybe a few people enjoy rock climbing or hiking. Maybe you like reading. That's my wife's hobby. She loves to read. Not just the Bible. She reads all sorts of books. She reads her Bible very well, but she likes reading other things too. And part of the reason we have an intelligent brain is it lets us understand God and see beauty in certain things. Maybe you find beauty in just walking in nature or watching birds. I find beauty in painting. And it reminds me that God's given me the ability to see things and observe things and understand things that normally I wouldn't. That the dogs don't understand, or the birds lack the ability to comprehend. But He's given me the ability to understand these things. So that's my tangent quickly, if you will. And if you're joining me right at the end of the stream, you missed it. But if you want to tell me your favorite hobby, you've still got a few moments. And if you're watching this later, thank you for making it this far and listening to my end tangent. Because here at Bible Life Builders, our goal is not to become the biggest YouTube channel, to become the biggest people on Facebook. It's to help you build your life on a biblical foundation that is Jesus Christ. So thank you so much for joining me in this time. And I will pray that you have a blessed day and a great Thanksgiving tomorrow. And I hope so much that if you are encouraged by this message and you want to join us in the future, that you subscribe and keep an eye out for the various different positive and encouraging things that we put out. So thank you so much, and I pray that you have a great rest of your day and a great day tomorrow on Thanksgiving. That's all I got for you. Thank you, and God bless.